Bible tells us the cities were in the plain of Jordan, which is the area surrounding the Dead Sea. Flavius Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, tells us, "There are still the remainders of that divine fire, and the traces of the 5 cities are still to be seen." Driving along the coastal highway of the Dead Sea in Israel, one can soon see peculiar formations that are of a lighter color than the surrounding terrain. These cities were consumed by intense flames, a supernatural heat that was directed by the hand of God. Today there is ash that is of lighter color than the surrounding mountains and terrain. Inspecting the formations closely, one can see structures containing man-made elements, such as 90-degree angles. This stunning structure stands out as a singular formation with 4 sides, surrounded by a deep moat. We move in closer to inspect the unusual features evident on the side of the formation. These swirling designs were also seen in other ashen formations in the cities. This is evidence of extreme heat, up to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, where thermal ionization occurs, when the electrons repel and attract, forming these unusual, swirling designs. Strange anomalies can be seen here, such as these fragile layers of material which disintegrate when touched. The limestone buildings in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were totally transformed into ash by the consuming fire of the Lord. When God unleashes a consuming fire, it will turn stone into ashes. At the perimeter of this city, one can see this amazing Sphinx still standing today. The Sphinx stands alone as a singular structure with a defined shape. This particular Sphinx has an obvious demarcation between its base and the soil below it, another sign of a man-made structure placed on top of the soil. One can also find loose or powdery ash that is quite thick and has been deposited next to the formations. In the formations themselves, some material can be gently raked off the surface with the slightest touch. Looking down the city streets, one can notice man-made shapes which are not found in nature. We can see the remains of walls that extended outward at 90-degree angles from the main structure. Once again, further evidence of man-made construction. As we pan across the city, we can see in the distance an arched doorway that exhibits a symmetrical shape even to this day. The whole land is brimstone, salt and burning. It is not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there. Ron Wyatt was the original discoverer of these cities in 1989, and he now describes the brimstone found here.
Okay, we're down at Sodom and Gomorrah still. Right in front of you see some unusual looking spots. Now what we have found, and we'll move in a little closer here, is that inside each of these is sulfur. That is in most of them. But the ones that don't have sulfur have a very black center where they have, where it's been very hot. But there are millions of these here. So this shows that God indeed rained fire and brimstone upon these cities. And if you look in your dictionary, under brimstone, you'll find that it is sulfur.
Back over at Gomorrah proper, we can see white, ashen worship structures built atop an acropolis or high place. Both a sphinx and ziggurat are seen here, side by side, much like what we see in Egypt at Giza, with the sphinx and the pyramids built in close proximity to each other. It is approximately 30 feet long and is quite impressive, both in its shape and size. Resting near it is the ziggurat, symmetrical in shape and also comprised of a special white material. On the outside of the ziggurat, we spotted a piece of brimstone fused into the side of the formation. Using a knife, it was opened, revealing the pure brimstone inside. The most impressive evidence was this cremated bone fragment that was left behind from some lost soul of Gomorrah. The bone marrow inside was cooked until it had turned white, turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemn them to destruction, making them an example of those who afterward would live ungodly. Are we in the will of God, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide us into obedience? Or are we part of the rebellious and lost? Friend, there is only one way to escape death, and that is through Jesus Christ. Won't you ask Him to take over your life today